All right, welcome to the Detroit Lions News Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Chap, and this is James. And you could find him on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called. And don't DM anybody because the DMs suck on X. Me and you are figuring this out. But look, I try to stay off Twitter this week because of the whole uh, Lions fiasco. Because here's what I don't get. We got such I would say good a knowledgeable fan base, right? And there's a majority of the fan base that just loves to just like they love the like what did Jared Goff say that one time? They love the reek and whatever. I forget what he said, but he said something about they love the whatever. And I was like, no, this is how it is. But I went on X a couple times. And they're like, oh, the season's over, season's over. And then the whole Jalen Phillips thing, like they should have traded for Jalen Phillips and all this jazz. It's honestly nauseating, and I'm glad that we're getting to the Giants. The Giants present their own little problems that you could probably potentially get, but they are one of the worst rush defenses in the entire NFL. So this is a game where you could get the run game going. If you don't get the run game going, it could be an issue. But uh, James, what did you think about the Eagles game? Like, we could just recap that really quick because I think a lot of people are still on the Eagles Lions game.
Yeah, I mean, huge stakes game in terms of, I think, we were kind of just talking about it. Like, it's hard to, like, that was a game that if you wanted to get the 1 seed, you probably had to win. Now, we'll see. But there was a lot going into it. And when you lose a game like that, there's going to be, a big reaction. And, we've talked about a lot, just how pretty much no matter what happens in the NFL week to week, it's just built in. There's going to be big reactions no matter what. But very frustrating game, especially just how it played out. It just seemed like every drive ended in a failed fourth down. The defense was just kind of standing on their head all game, and they just really couldn't get over the hump. And, the one time they did, score a touchdown. And then I think it was the ensuing drive where the Eagles, that was the one really letdown spot of the entire game for the defense. The ensuing drive after the Jamison Williams touchdown, they allow an Eagles score. So it just was not good enough, but at the same time, pretty frustrating because they were moving the ball. They were in spots. If they would have, even one of these 5 failed fourth down conversions is successful and leads to a touchdown, you can make a pretty clear case that it was, maybe a Lions win, if not kind of a tie game right at the end. And, more of that in terms of, being down late and trying to make a kind of a steal one at the end type thing. But just awful, like kind of almost the story of the season offensively. That is, I think they're 27th now in third down conversion. They were, horrible. I don't know exactly, 4 for 14 or 3 for 15, whatever it was. And then 0 for 5 on fourth down. So that just right now is kind of the story of the offense and in a way the season.
Yeah, the whole game was weird because it was in 30, 40 mile per hour winds. And I knew someone that was there and he literally sent me a text and he said, I spit my dip out and end up on my girlfriend's coat, not telling her that the wind is definitely a factor. And then you listen to some of the Eagles podcasters, some of the Eagles radio hosts through the week, and they said that wind did play a factor, especially with Jalen Hurts, and they were like, we felt bad for Jared Goff because there was a couple plays where they could have made, which if the wind wasn't a huge factor, it would have been a downtown completion to St. Brown on a couple of times. So it's just like you kind of chalk it up as one of those games where nothing was really working, and I know a lot of people are frustrated because of what happened against the Chiefs, what happened against the Vikings, but like I feel like this is a different type of loss. And I went back and
I agree actually with that completely. I thought it was a game where it was very similarly played on both sides, and the Eagles won. I think they deserved to win, but it wasn't one where it was like, oh my God, we were totally outmatched and this and that. It was very similar, and the Eagles won the game.
I felt like so I went back and watched it on all 22, and I felt like there was a couple of plays the Lions could have made that could have been the difference. The main difference though was they had the drive down a half, which was that was pretty big because they got a touchdown out of it. But I thought the biggest one was when we were down in the goal line and we had a chance to really complete the pass. There was a player open that Jared Goff completely missed, and he was also getting pressured in his face. And then the run that they did with Jahmyr Gibbs, I felt like Jahmyr Gibbs could have got in if they would have just audibled. I don't know what happened. It seemed like Jared Goff just had a bad game in terms of the way that he was doing things. I always tell people one of the reasons I think that we're starting. I think in the second half of the season, we're going to see more Jared Goff taking command of the line of scrimmage. That was Frank Ragnow's job, and you could see that they're kind of still a little off. And I think that's why Dan Campbell took over the play calling, to be honest, because he sees this. And if I see it on film, Dan Campbell and everyone sees the same damn thing. Because, I mean, there was a play where Goff was getting pressured, and Aosika and Ratledge were blocking the same effing player, and Jalen Carter was bearing down on Jared Goff. So I can't sit here and say that this was like this game where it's a referendum on what the team is. I can't say that because I really don't think that they're that bad. I don't think they're as bad as they played against the Chiefs. And like everyone tries to discount the Ravens win or the Buccaneers win. I mean, I feel like
even the Bears win at this point. I mean, they're 7-3. I mean,
yeah, I think the Bears.
I don't believe in them that much, but they'd be 8-2 if we didn't beat them.
Yeah, and the Bears, they're 8. They could be 8-2 if the Lions had beat them. But
week 12, they're in first place. It counts a little if you destroy them.
Yeah, the Bears. I think the Ravens are going to turn around and be in the playoffs. I think the Buccaneers are still a good team, and I think that you struggle against the Packers, but you played good against the Browns, which is one of the best defensive lines, and you didn't allow a sack in that game. So I don't know. I think that they're trying to get caught up. They're trying to get into a new phase, and I thought the Eagles game was going to be a good test for Dan Campbell because he's used to. He just took over play calling, so he learned something. He learned something, and I just felt like they were a little off in terms of. I even think Dan Campbell is off with his fourth downs. Like we talked about it before we got on here about how if you would have just punted and had Jack Fox, pin him deep, maybe they would have won the game or something, a couple times, and he just didn't do that. And their average start position for the Eagles was the 42-yard line. So if you think about it like that. A team like the Eagles, eventually they're going to score a touchdown from the 42-yard line. I mean,
yeah, I mean, this game I really think was just, and they've talked about it a lot, and that's why it's a frustrating theme. But the critical downs and like the you mentioned it right off, your last statement there, just in the 4th and goal, Brock Wright is ultimately like wide open over the middle, and Jalen Phillips beat Penei Sewell, and they kind of had to rush the throw. And maybe if he has an extra hitch of a second, he can see Brock Wright coming free right in front of him. I thought if you're just boiling it down to one play, that could have been the biggest play of the game, just because they score that. Now they're tied again. They finally convert a 4th down. They regain a lot of the. You're down a touchdown at that point still if you don't get it. So that was a big play, and they're going to have to be, the offensive line. It's such a tricky thing because they, I've kind of talked about it this week, and that it's not it's a noticeable drop off from the Frank Ragnow offensive line. And I think that's what's very jarring for Lions fans to see, but it's not an offensive line really that is that horrible. I mean, a lot of these games, yes, the offensive line, like the Eagles game, the Vikings game, the Chiefs game, like it's contributed to the losses, the offensive line struggles, but they've still been like they had plenty of other opportunities to win the game even with that. So it's not to me a debilitating issue, kind of the ups and downs of the offensive line. And the other point I guess I think is worth mentioning is just I think there is a lot of like inevitability with what we're seeing with the offensive line. And like with Frank Ragnow retiring, I really don't think they're. I think you can make the case that the Lions kind of had a decent plan going into this year, and that uh, like they were going to use Graham Glasgow as a stopgap 1 year type guy, and then they had two young guards that I think most people are feel pretty good about going forward, that we're going to be up and down. I think your tackles obviously are good. It hasn't helped that Taylor Decker's been hurt all season.
Right.
Um, but this offensive line, I think they're still going to have some moments where against great fronts, like you're going to get beat at times. But I think ultimately they still have there. To me, it just comes down to execution, because there's plays out there to be made, even despite all that, that would have won these games. And some of it, I know I probably hate on the special teams more than any Lions fan right now, but I really feel like, especially if I had to pin it on one thing, to me, the Minnesota game was lost on the two special teams disasters, with the huge return that gave him like a 20-yard field and a touchdown, and then the kick return, or the kick block, that takes points off the board for the Lions and gives them another short field where they get a touchdown. This game, you have the blocked, or the kind of ridiculous fake punt at midfield. If they can just kind of stay out of their way a little bit and just execute a tad more, I think some of these games can be flipped into wins, even with the offensive line. It's probably still going to be a little bit up and down, but not a unplayable unit. There is still a lot of positives. Tate Ratledge was great 2 weeks ago. He was awful against Philly. So I mean, that's what you're going to get a little bit with some of these guys.
Yeah, and you just hit on it. This was a couple weeks ago. Tate Ratledge had the lowest pressure rate allowed by rookie offensive linemen. And I'll agree with you 100% because here's the thing. I don't think the Lions thought that Frank Ragnow would retire when he did. And I know he was hurt, and I think they knew he was hurt. I didn't think they knew that he was going to lose a ton of weight in his recovery process, and that's what led to him retiring, supposedly. And if you look on Instagram, he definitely lost some weight. So I think they came in with the plan that this was probably going to be Frank Ragnow's last year, like or close to. They had Miles Frazier, they had Mahogany, they had Ratledge, so they felt like they were gonna, backload it in. They had 1 more year or 2 more years of right now. And people, I always see it. Like, there's people that were arguing with me today. They were like, "Oh, you can go get center instead of Tesla." Tesla's taking the most heat right now, which I don't understand because I think you're gonna need him, especially with Laporta out. But whatever the case may be, these people, there's a lot of people that don't understand that. Like, if you look at every Lions rookie wide receiver, J-Mo, St. Brown, they didn't do nothing in the first 10 games. Nothing. Game 11, game 12, game 13, game 14, that's when they decide to use them a little bit more. And then by the end of the year, they're kind of like going full force. That's kind of what they do because they don't believe in sending a wide receiver out there that can't block or can't do the little things. So they're not going to send him out there until he's ready. So that's the way I look at it there. But I just look at this whole thing with the offensive line. And I was going through the statistics with you. So their time to pressure against, which is like how much time it is to pressure the quarterback, they're number one in the league in the shortest span. And the teams that are in the same area are the Lions, the Rams, and the Colts. Okay. Those are all the best teams in the NFL, if you want to be honest. You look at a team like Buffalo, they're at the bottom. KC's at the bottom, but supposedly, you got the Lions got less quarterback pressures than those guys. So the Lions got they got 120 quarterback pressures, which is 21st in the league. And their sack percentage is the 12th lowest, 13th lowest in the league. And then you look at how many times he's been sacked, like Jared Goff. You got to go down the list. He's he's like what is it? Let me make sure I'm getting it right. Their 11th lowest sack team in the NFL. So I mean, we could look at the offensive line. We could think Jared Goff that he's a veteran guy who can get rid of the ball really quickly. That's the main thing. But this offensive line, if they could get a tick better, literally, I'm looking at right now. If they got better in time to pressure against by just maybe, let's see, Just 7 points. Just 7 points. They'd be in the average portion of the league. That's how like small of a how small it is in the NFL. And I don't know, man. I just don't think the Lions are that far off like people think. I think they still got everything ahead of them. I'm not gonna go into doom and gloom at some of these people, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and this is, at the end of the day, you're 6-4, and you have 3 straight home games coming up now, where, really they're in a pretty good spot at least to come out of it at, what, they're 6-4 right now. They really should be 8-5 at very worst. And the Packers, you're setting up a game against Green Bay where, and I know we can't overlook, we're going to talk about the Giants game here, but this team has everything in front of them. Uh, and they're going to still have those opportunities against Green Bay, against the Rams, against
The Bears,
the Bears
Vikings.
that are, yeah, you lost to the Vikings. You have a chance to make that up. So ultimately, the 7 games here we're gonna find out ultimately what this team is, and there's a lot of positives. We haven't really talked too much about the defense. This is as good of a Lions defense as I've seen. I mean, certainly the Cowboys playoff year defense, that was a incredible defense. Outside of that, this is right there. So this is a championship level defense as far as I'm concerned right now, and they haven't even really gotten fully healthy, and they project to be. DJ Reed's going to be back, very soon, if not this game.
Mhm.
Terry and Arnold kind of looks like maybe he's going to miss another game, but you've been having all these corners step up. You're still going to get him back. You have Amik Robertson, Brian Branch. Kirby Joseph has to be pretty close, because I think they ultimately, and it's just kind of how it works with some of these, but they should have put him on IR. This has lingered on a little bit longer, but I think he's still going to be back here within another week or two, hopefully. On the defensive line with Marcus Davenport and Pascal and Rodrigo at linebacker is probably going to be back this week. So, I mean, this defense, in the meantime of the offense, still figuring things out, Dan Campbell, because let's be fair, if 2 weeks ago was, the biggest joke of assignment for him that he could have got facing the Commanders, the Eagles, in Philadelphia with those conditions, with the win, that might have been one of the hardest possible assignments we could have got last week. So, you still have a play caller that I think is going to be a positive for us, but we're still going to, work that out over the last part of the season. So while all that's going on with the offensive line and everything, I think you have a defense that is going to be able to keep you in all of these games. And I've even really thought, I was, kind of the lone wolf after the Green Bay game, saying like, actually, if you look at this and kind of the offense doing nothing, and where some of these possessions started, like the defense kind of really only had like 1, maybe 2 bad drives that game. And they've kind of been a star point of this team since then. So, that's a big positive to lean on. Kind of honestly similar to the Packers, in that their offense should be better than it is, and their defense is holding them in games, and these offenses can figure it out. It's kind of going to be a complete team here.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of stats that I look at when I look at this defense that are glaring, in the good way. When you look at this defense, did you know that the 2 teams at the top of the NFL in terms of average target separation, which means that these teams are not getting much separation on these corners? Philadelphia, Detroit, Denver. Those are the 3. Those are 3 top
And I'd
teams.
even like one up it with the linebackers coverage for the Lions have also been, I don't know if that's included in that, but just like the linebackers on top of it, like the coverage in general on this team has been great.
Yeah, if you go like I don't have it's not letting me do like the whole like linebackers or whatever. But if you like look at it, like the linebackers have been really good in pass coverage. I think I read that they're all top 40 in pass coverage, which
Yeah.
is really really good. And then there's more defensive stats that are really they're really something, man. You look at pressure, quarterback pressure rate, they're seventh in the NFL. Sack percentage, they're fourth in the NFL. And then you look at like just the broad ones, the yards per game. The Detroit Lions are fifth in the NFL, ahead of the Green Bay Packers, ahead of the Chiefs, and ahead of all those guys. And points per game, they allow the fifth lowest points per game. Well, actually, 10th lowest. It dropped a little bit, but
And this
still,
is going against a ton of, we have a very difficult schedule. So this is a pretty true, I'm sure all the, that's why like DVO, like the weighted statistics against opponent, like we're very high in these because we're doing this against a very high quality of opponent.
well, I think you could look at the schedule. Like I'll put it up for the people, but you look at the schedule. I'd say the Packers offense is all right, whatever. Ravens, Chiefs, Buccaneers. I mean, even the Vikings can get you a little bit. The Bengals had Jamar Chase and T Higgins. Like I mean, it is what it is. There's not really a slouch that you've played. I mean, I think the slouch is coming this week with the offense that the Giants have, because I really don't think the Giants offense with famous Jameis and co. Is
I think
something.
it's gonna be Dart.
Man, you think it's gonna be Dart?
I do. It kind of sounds like he's gonna clear. I think they should. If I were the Giants, I would have no interest in immediately throwing Jackson Dart back out there after multiple concussion issues. But I think he's gonna clear protocol and just. I mean, from what I've seen, I kind of think he's gonna play.
Okay, so here's the Giants. The Giants play the Patriots next week on Monday Night Football. I kind of would. That's when I would play him, maybe. Because here's the
you're right. I think they should. I think it might. We'll see, I guess. But I kind of think he's going to play.
But here's the thing. Here's the problem with Jackson Dart, and I think that we don't have a coach to really tell him not to get down or whatever. But if he tries to do what he does against, some of these guys, like. If he tries to stay up against Brian Branch, he's going to get destroyed.
He needs, and I know that there's been all these reports out of New York saying like they're telling him like we can't run with you like this.
No.
I'll say this though, like I know, and I think I saw a thing yesterday where Field Yates and Mel Kiper did a redraft of the first round, and Mel Kiper switched it to Jackson Dart, number 1 overall. And Field Yates, he still had Cam Ward, but he had Jackson Dart like right after that. I've been really impressed with Jackson Dart, and really like the one thing you can point to, and the Lions have pointed this out, that if you are gonna convince yourself that the Lions could lose this game, the Giants against against the Broncos, against the Packers, against a number of other teams, like have been winning these games late. And they basically just implode and lose. He has been a really big spark for them. I mean, I think he has 7 rushing touchdowns and maybe 10 passing touchdowns. And this is with Neighbors basically immediately getting hurt when they had Jackson Dart be the starter, and then obviously Cam Scatteraboo also getting hurt. I thought that they were at that point, they were just throwing him out to the wolves and he would be totally incompetent. I've been very impressed with Jackson Dart. So I am hoping it's famous Jameis. I hope that is the case.
Yeah, I would hope it's famous Jameis too. If it's Dart, it adds a little bit of an element. But if you look at the Giants, I mean, the potential, there's no Malik Neighbors. It looks like from all like reports, like they have a bunch of guys that are not they're on the injury report. Jackson Dart was limited, but you have a bunch of guys. Obviously, Malik Neighbors is out for the year. Darius Slayton was limited. He's one of their better wide receivers, but it is what it is. I mean, I think if Jackson Dart plays, that could be a little bit of that could be a good test for the Lions defense in terms of. I think Jackson Dart is really good. I don't know why Field Yates would put Cam Ward ahead of Jackson Dart. That don't really make much sense to me. I mean, I've watched Cam Ward, and I think he's I think he's talented, but he is not. He doesn't know how to get rid of the ball when he's getting absolutely destroyed. And Tennessee's not a really good team. Their offensive line is probably the worst in football.
This case was basically just that the Titans are so bad. and like have like the worst supporting cast that he's like, I still think he's talented enough. And but then like we just talked about, it's not like the Giants with all these injuries are some great position either, and they're allowing like 30, they're allowing a ton of points, but they are scoring like 20 something points a game a lot of these Jackson Dart starts.
Okay, how many times do you think Cam Ward has been sacked this year?
Wait, I don't know. 50. That might be
close. 41. 41.
Okay. That's a lot.
The Chargers are at 37. Drake May and the Patriots at 36. 9 in the Minnesota Vikings, 34.
Oh man, I love that. I love that whole thing.
That will never get old with the 9.
Really,
and then he goes out the next game and he's just total ass.
Man. I hope they can pull one out this week though. They're playing the Packers. Hopefully 9 comes out, man. 9 mode. We need them. We need them out there handing it off and having it, make 1 or 2 nice passes and just.
Oh my god.
He's been bad. He's been really bad.
It tells you everything about JJ McCarthy when his quarterback coach calls Chris Carter a bum.
Oh,
like,
gosh, I don't know if honestly, I should say this. I've thought about this a lot. Like that loss to the Vikings really is so tough to swallow. And especially with how it would have changed, like kind of this whole outlook, like we would have been, we would have gotten out to 7-3, I guess, going into yesterday. Yeah. Like we just would have had more of a wiggle room and all going into all of this. But I'm glad we at least get another chance at them because we got to beat those guys.
I felt like the Vikings game was the Texans game in reverse last year, where we should have lost that game and we won it, pulled it out. But the Vikings game, it really does piss me off. It still pisses me off. I tell people this all the time. That was the worst loss that you could ever have because JJ McCarthy is absolutely effing terrible. I don't care that he's a rookie quarterback because I posted on my page, JC Sports, on Facebook, and people were like, he's a rookie. You remember what Peyton Manning did in his rookie year? I go, yeah, Peyton Manning never threw an interception a game. He threw like 5 in one game. You know what I'm saying? Law of average. Law of average. The Vikings are terrible.
That honestly is it's an interesting situation because they really thought that they were ready to play. And I mean, he does not look ready to play at all. I mean, we'll see what the last, he's only made 4 or 5 starts, but especially just with some of the commentary on him too. Like even he himself I heard a quote today where he's like, yeah, they're like, this is what I'm being asked to do is like totally different than learning, like how they want me to play quarterback is totally different than what at Michigan, which it shouldn't be a surprise to most people. Like most people, that was the storyline. Like you didn't have to do much at Michigan. So
he passed 9 times a game at Michigan.
Right. And that was the big point. And you're going to Minnesota where it's this long developing downfield route passing where they're passing 30 plus times a game.
James, I don't mean to make fun of your college that you love. His worst game was against
It was. Yeah.
Green, dude.
Honestly, that game was crazy. I got to at least make a comment on that. That game was crazy. We actually had like our 4th string quarterback playing in that game. If we had our starter playing, we honestly might have pulled off a miracle upset because JJ threw 3 picks and we were like, it was like late 3rd quarter and we were only down like 3. And it was basically just because we could not move the ball on. And we actually had a good Connor Bazelak, our quarterback, who was active this year multiple times with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If we would have had him play that whole game, we might have pulled off a miracle because JJ was through all of his interceptions in his career against us. It was crazy.
That's what I'm trying to say, man. Like that was a game
amazing.
They put him out there to showcase his arm, and he throws 3 interceptions. They're like, oh, shit.
That was amazing. I love that.
This is not the way it's supposed to go. Not the way it's supposed to go. But, this Giants-Lions game that we have right here is really interesting. Jackson Darts, he's averaging 221 pass yards per game, almost 2 touchdowns per game in his short time.
Like
They're
50, 60 rushing yards a game too.
yeah, he's averaging 25.2, they say.
Okay.
Uh,
I guess I
and-
should say on his actual rushing attempts, not baked in with like sacks and everything.
yeah, I don't know if they baked this in with sacks, but I imagine they did. But that's just the way it goes. This game is really interesting because obviously the Lions have won 13 consecutive games coming off a loss dating back to Week 9 of 2022, which we know. It seems like Jackson Dart's going to play because NFL Pro seems to be highlighting some of his stuff. Like Jackson Dart has accounted for 2 or more offensive touchdowns in his first 7 starts, which is tied for his second longest streak by a rookie quarterback in NFL history. And that was held by Dak Prescott in his 2016 campaign. So I don't know, man. This game, it doesn't concern me, but I'll tell you where it does concern me. That defensive line is pretty good. Now their secondary is ass. It is indeed not that great. They are allowing, what are they allowing in pass yardage? They are allowing
Guys banged up too, and there's like Paulson Adebo, who they signed, like who was hurt when they signed him, has just kind of stayed hurt.
Yeah, they're allowing 6.1 yards per pass, which is a lot. Ironically, the team we lost to in the Minnesota Vikings is allowing 6.1 as well. But they're just not a good team in the passing game. When you look at some of the statistics that this comes along with it, like you look at the passing, like their defense is ranked. Their passing versus play action is 25th, 21st in passing versus blitz.
Rush defense horrible.
Their rush defense. You want to hear their rushing stats?
It's like bottom of the league, basically.
On design runs, they're 32nd. On rushing shotgun, they're 32nd. On overall rushing efficiency, they're 32nd. Rushing in the red zone, 32nd. Rushing outside the tackles, 32nd.
Wow.
Rushing under the center, 31st. Oh, here, this is a good one. Rushing versus stacked box, they're 30th. That's their best one.
Wow.
Rushing versus the light box, they're 32nd in the league. And rushing inside tackles are 24th. And they're 20th on QB scrambles. But that doesn't apply to us because the day Jared Goff takes out for QB scramble is going to be like it's like dude, if you put that in a parlay, and it's easily going to go to $1,000.
The likelihood of that happening would be the likelihood of like Jonathan Smith blowing up on an official and getting kicked out of the game, or getting excited if his team scores a touchdown.
You just had to do it. Just had to do it. Jonathan Smith is he is one of the worst coaches I've ever had in my entire life. And this goes to Patricia. Derek Lalone was terrible with the Red Wings. I hated Derek Lalone. He was a dummy. Patricia was dumb. Now, Jim Caldwell was good.
Is he worse than Patricia, Jonathan Smith?
He's pretty effing close, yeah.
He's up there. At least Jonathan, like, I think the tiebreaker, though, might be, like, Matt Patricia is just, like, a total a-hole. Like, I know it's not any better that Jonathan Smith just has no emotions, but at least, like, he's not going to berate, like, a media member to have good posture or, like, be completely condescending when someone asks him a legit. He might not give a great answer, but he's not going to be act like he's better than you when he does it.
You know what? You might be right because at least one coach doesn't take an ATV on the field because he's so
he's not going to do that.
That was probably the saddest part about Matt Patricia. He's taking ATV. It's like, dude, you need to walk in, okay? You need to walk. I hate Matt Patricia, man. That whole Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia thing was so just terrible. Like,
that was tough. That was tough to stomach.
Oh man, but I don't know, man.
Going back to your point, though, I think you hit it perfectly. I think the game plan needs to be very simple. Like, run game. No excuse not to. I've had all these opinions both ways about David Montgomery. There's no reason that he shouldn't get a ton of carries this week. You can mix in Jahmyr Gibbs, have him be kind of half and half. They don't need to run anyone into the ground this game. And then, off that, you have your play action, which I think Dan Campbell on it. What I'm very encouraged about by his play calling through 2 weeks is he seems to 100% know, like, all of what we need to get into to be successful. Like, he's calling play actions. Like, we had way too many games early on with John Morton where we weren't working in the play action like whatsoever. So if this run defense is horrific as they appear to be, we should be able to really focus on that, try to make it an emphasis, because the run game, I think, to our standards has not been there. Try to get that established, and then off that you can work in your play action. And especially if they're horrible against the run on shotgun too. So even if you are maybe worried a little bit about the pass rush, you can have David Montgomery back there, and you can either pass it or hand it off to him, and or he can be decent in pass pro for you. So really, there's no excuse for I think there are some things that maybe their offense makes a couple plays, but at the same time, this Lions defense, as we talked about, is playing at a super high level. So, if you can just take advantage of what this defense has been, they're allowing points and rushing yards and yards in general. This could be another kind of get right spot for the offense as it was against Washington.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting one. And the one thing about the Giants is they do not force turnovers. They're one of the worst teams in forcing turnovers. If you look at how many turnovers they've forced in total, where was it? I think I lost it, but they're like at the bottom of league, 32nd in forcing turnovers. I think they only have like 3 the whole year.
Wow.
But their passing game, their pass defense is not great. Their run defense is not great. You could really
do with how great they're like with all these big name pass rushers. Like they're not really that interested, seemingly, in bowling up against the run. Like they want to quick beat their man to try to get a sack, so they can. I assume like you were watching this team's tape. I really, admittedly, have not seen a ton of. I saw them like their game last week because they played the Packers. I wanted to see that, but I can't imagine their like integrity in fitting these holes and the rush lanes, kind of going out of their way to get a sack, may leave a gaping hole. So you got to take advantage of that.
You know what their problem is, and it's probably the reason that the Lions passed up on Thibodeau for Hutch.
Who kind of is trending towards not playing in this game, by the way. Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah,
I think he might not play.
He's terrible against the run. Terrible against the run.
Yes.
And I'll take it a step further. Abdul Carter, who they just drafted, he's a really good pass rusher. He's absolutely phenomenal. But you look at his run defense grade on Pro Football Focus, and that's not the end all be all or nothing. He's one of the worst players on the team. Like he's terrible. He's terrible. And I don't really, a lot of people talk about when you have a good pass rusher, you just want them to rush the passer and that's it, right? But I think if you're a good pass rusher, you're good against the run and the pass. That's what I think. I just like Trey Hendrickson. A lot of people love Trey Hendrickson. He's terrible against the run too. And I know like there's a lot of Lions fans that love, let's go get, the difference is like your defense is not built like their defenses. You guys in Detroit, they pride themselves on being good edge rush defenders, like run defenders, like Myles Garrett's one of the best run defense guys in the whole entire league. That just tells you like what it's about, Max Crosby, Hutchinson, those are the guys that are at the top, of the list, So that's what I think. And when you go watch the tape of the Giants, you see exactly their issue. Like their issue is they get upfield, they look for sacks, and when they do that, they just get bowed out. Like Caleb Williams made them look stupid the other day. Was a couple weeks ago they played the Bears. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. The Bears should have lost that game, to be honest.
Sure. Yeah.
And the reason that they lost that game, the number one reason was why the Bears came back was because Caleb Williams was getting rid of the ball really quickly, and then they were doing a halfback draw to Swift, and they were going upfield, and Swift would cut it over and do his business, and that's exactly what it was.
And Jackson Dart got hurt, and they put in Dangerous, and he was beyond brutal. Like they were winning with like 5 or 6 minutes left. They trot out Russ, who just all they needed was like 1 or 2 decent, competent plays, and he's out there tripping over himself.
Russell Wilson might be the quintessential one of the biggest falls from grace I've ever seen in my entire life.
He's
Which
he's definitely got to be up there for sure.
which goes to what people say about him. Like I've heard people that talk about Russell Wilson, like Marshawn Lynch saying that he would never talk to Russell Wilson again because he's a douchebag. I mean, Marshawn Lynch seems like a pretty good dude. So if he's saying that, I'm pretty thinking that. I mean, anytime you name yourself dangerous, it's like you should never give yourself a nickname. You really shouldn't.
Exactly. I think
Like
JJ McCarthy's a perfect example of that. Look how much that has blown up in his face already.
like 9. Like that's the stupidest like one. Like at least Tom Brady's was like clever, like TB12. You know what I'm saying? That was pretty cool. But it, anytime you give yourself a nickname as a quarterback, I think you're an absolute douchebag. Like
That actually is a good point, probably.
Mahomes doesn't do it. Josh Allen doesn't do it. Well, Burrow got the Joe Cool, which I think is kind of cheesy, anyways.
I think it is a little bit too, yeah.
But like, it's just that Subway commercial he made. This is a sidetrack. That Subway commercial Russell Wilson made. I
was hoping you would bring that's what I was that was the initial reference I was gonna make. The witch guy or whatever that was.
Yeah, he's like the danger witch. It was like
the danger witch.
Oh my
god, that was brutal. Didn't they like immediately cut that from the airwaves? Like it aired like 1 week, and then Subway was like, "Oh my gosh, like we can never show this again." I'm pretty sure that's how it went.
It aired during a Sunday Night Football game, and everyone made fun of it on X, and then they took it.
I feel like I never saw it again after that.
Yeah. And look, dude, this really tells you how bad Giants football could be. Because I know people that are Giants fans, and they literally said, like, look, I don't know what Jameis Winston's going to do on a day-to-day basis. I don't know if I'm getting good Jameis or bad Jameis. I don't really know. But if you have to rely on Russell Wilson.
It's kind of I saw someone point this out, like, how did he win the backup job? Jameis has been there the whole season, right?
Yeah.
Like, how was he not the backup quarterback? That's kind of remarkable, actually.
Well, he was starting at first. Like
Russell Wilson, right?
Starting, yeah.
I just like, how in the world did he beat out Jameis Winston? Like, I don't even get that.
That Sunday Night Football game where he was in the red zone and he threw all those passes out the back of the end zone.
Against the Lions?
No, it was against the Cowboys.
Oh, okay. Oh, this year, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking of when he was here with Denver, and it was.
That was bad too. Yeah,
absolutely brutal.
He did the same thing there.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the game Sean Payton like told him like you're an idiot?
Yes, he lost his absolute mind on him on the sideline. It was great.
I think that was his last game in Denver too.
It might have been. Like he was like, no, this is it. Like this is brutal.
They're like, you're so bad. We'll take Jared Stidham over your dumbass. Yeah. What it is. But I look at this game, man, and there's one thing I look at with this game. This is a good test for the Lions' offensive line, especially like with the defensive ends. And I know they're not good against the run defense grades. They're pretty bad. But Dexter Lawrence, he's also having a bad year in terms of the way he's playing. So they haven't been the same defense that, when I came into this year, I said the one game that I thought was going to be a trap game was the Giants game. I don't think that anymore. I really don't. I used to think that this was going to be a trap game, and it is what it is, but I don't think it's going to be a trap game because I think if Jackson Dart plays or doesn't play, he's coming into a hornet's nest. He's coming off a little bit of an injury reprieve. Like, it's going to be different. And then next thing you got to know is he'll have his weapons, man. If he had Malik Neighbors, it'd be a little bit different. I'd fear them a little bit more, but I don't really fear the Giants. And this is a game for the Lions to really get right, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could have been a trap game if like the Lions were like, maybe on like a big winning streak or something like that. But especially after a loss, like you got to figure they're going to be pretty locked in for this game. And then, the other thing I would say, just as part of a preview element, is this Giants defense, which, we just laid out all the numbers. They clearly absolutely hate their defensive coordinator.
Yes, they do. Shane Bowen.
Shane Bowen, yep. I was blanking on his name there for a second. But Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of these shots of their guys coming off the field yelling, "Why are we doing this and that?" Um, any sort of Giants fan is, I would assume, dumbfounded how he wasn't also let go and they moved on from Brian Dayball. But like, if you can string together a good drive or two to start the game, I always bring this point up because I think you see it play out in the NFL. Like this team is not going to be one that's going to, hunker down and really try to rally around each other, at least defensively. I think Jackson Dart, if he does play in this game, that guy is going to lay it out all on the line and give everything he has. But defensively, this is a unit that has not been good this year, hates their coach, and, on the road, if you can get off to a decent start or, whenever you find it, put up a score or two, it could get away from this defense pretty fast, the Giants.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting game from what is he? Sewell, they're not all out. We haven't even had the injury report.
Yeah, Sewell should play. Decker should play. Brandt should play. Arnold and Joseph, I'm guessing, do not play.
And it'd be smart, to be honest. And you're going to get DJ Reed back, supposedly. That's going to be a good thing. But this game right here, man, this is going to be an interesting game for the Lions' perspective. And I think with the game, see, you don't even have a full week to get ready for Green Bay. So it's kind of like if you have a player that could potentially.
That's why the one thing, maybe they hold DJ Reed out. I was going back and forth on that, but then I was like, well, maybe they just go into it saying, like, we're going to play you in like 25% of the snaps just to get your feet wet. I could see it going both ways on that.
I was hearing from people like, who was it? It was a Cowboy who said that it was a Cowboy on Dallas radio. And he said, like, look, he goes, when you're in Thanksgiving week, he goes, the game before, that's a game where you kind of get a little bit of rest. And if the game doesn't really have implications, like if you know that you could win this game without the players that you need to hold out, you hold them out. He says, but if you're going against, like, I think, who does Green Bay have this week? Don't they have the Vikings
and Lambeau?
So maybe the Green Bay could be like, I don't know. I think Green Bay's. I think they're coached by.
They got to go for the win in a division like that. I don't think they can hold anyone back, and they haven't played well, like, at all.
And the Giants.
We're talking about like the Lions. They've been up and down. Green Bay basically post week 1 beating the Lions. They really have not put together one impressive or good performance. Really.
That's why I said, like, I'm not really worried about them. If I was a Packer fan, I'd be more worried about the Packers than I am the Lions because I don't. First of all, I think Jordan Love's a total joke of a quarterback. I don't think he's good at all. Like, I think he's decent, but I don't think he's this guy. Like, people are hyping him up to be a top 10 quarterback. I don't see
that. Yeah, I don't see that either. I think he's pretty good, but clearly not, like, for a while, Packers fans were even like, oh, this guy's like, he's the next Hall of Fame quarterback. Like, no, he's maybe good enough to consider a franchise quarterback, but there's also plenty of tape out there. It's like, oh my, he makes a lot of crazy throws. And some of these, like, a lot of his big plays are just like 50-50, like, deep shots that, like, if the defender turns around, they easily pick him off. And if he doesn't, then the wide receiver still has to make like a great play on it. Like, watching the game last week against the Giants, they had like a 3rd and 10 with like 5 minutes left at midfield. They were down 1, where if they didn't get it, they were going to have to punt it. And he just lobs it like 30 yards downfield off his back foot. And I think it was Christian Watson just like jumps over a guy and makes an incredible play. But like those are a lot of the plays that, like, the big splash plays that he makes are not these like, oh, he put it on a dime and hit his guy in stride or layered it over like a linebacker in between a safety or something like that. It's just he's lobbing like deep balls out there. It's crazy.
Well, I did hear something that I thought was really funny, to be honest. It was I think it was someone on CBS Sports News, whatever, and I forget who it was, but he played for the Steelers, Brian McFadden, I think it was. And he said, how does it feel to be Jared Goff? You're in a division with like total idiots at quarterback that will just throw up anything that they want. Caleb Williams will do it. JJ
That's a
McCarthy
good
will do
point.
it.
Both those,
Jo-
yeah.
Jordan Love will do it. He goes, you're the smartest quarterback of them all. Like, you just have to wait for them to make mistakes, and then boom. That's what he said. And I kind of was like, damn, that's actually a pretty good point, because you look at some of these quarterbacks like Jordan Love, Caleb Williams. Like, I've seen Caleb Williams get away with some real dumb throws.
Incredible athlete, but it's such a the Bears are just I don't know.
I think
I really want to see him play against these good
I
teams.
think that
Like, yeah,
I think
Caleb Williams isn't even completing like 60% of his passes.
I think the ship for the Chicago Bears is going to come to a screeching halt.
This is to me, this is the by far the biggest game of the season for them. I like if they beat the Steelers this week, I think they're just by math they're going to be 8-3, and I think they're going to, they play the Packers twice. Like the Packers haven't shown me enough to like. I think the Bears could maybe split with them.
Yeah,
They play the Browns. But if they lose this week, they're really up against it because then it's like at Philly after that, and then I think at Green Bay after that. So they could go 7-6 fast, or they could be like 8-3 after this week.
And their schedule is tough. They got the Steelers, Eagles, Packers, Browns, Packers, 49ers, Lions. And they got those are three tough road games they got. And they even got, three tough home games, to be honest. They're only gimme. And
the Browns are the type of team that they've still been like going down to the last play against and beating.
And that's a team that I think that would really give Caleb Williams fits, especially that defensive line. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's the Chicago Bears. I think they're just they're an interesting team. I don't think they're going to be 7-3. I think they might lose the Steelers this week. That's my opinion.
If they do, they're in deep trouble. If they win, I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs.
Because it's all smoke and mirrors. They're allowing the most points in the division. It literally smoke and mirrors. But the one thing I was going to mention, Jack Campbell leads all linebackers in run tackle percentage at 25.9 and a run stop percentage at 16.1, which we aren't going to need this week. But it'll be interesting to see what happens if Josh Jacobs plays next week, which I doubt he plays, to be honest. But you can never be too sure. But this game, let's just wrap it up here. This game, I want to say it's a game that the Lions they got to look good. That's my main takeaway. They have to look good.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that ultimately they have to win, like for sure. Yeah. I think you want them to, especially with some of the numbers, you want them to look good in the run game. You want the offense to be able to hold up against some of these good pass rushers that the Giants have. And they're really, you look at the rest of the schedule, like this is a game that you're counting as a win, and you're at a point now where you really can't afford another loss like this and feel like amazing. I mean, you're hoping that you take care of the Giants, Cowboys, and Steelers, and then you pick off at least one of the Packers and Rams. But at the same time, like this is still a team that if they win this week and then go out and beat the Packers, like maybe they are a team that like this is a legitimate team. They're back on course to win 12 plus games. Because really, if they win the next couple of games and beat the Packers, they probably are on like a 12-win pace again. So we talked about the beginning of this schedule, this show, but these 3 home games coming up, like at the end of these 3 weeks, like it could just be night and day in terms of how we're talking about this team. Because if they get this done, and it really would not be crazy that they win these 3 games, they're going to be favored in all of them. They can really be in good position, and a lot of these concerns, even if you still have them, they can kind of be in the context of like, well, okay, this is still a team that can absolutely, get home, maybe not home field advantage, but get a 2 seed maybe, and maybe fight for the 1 seed if you're really gonna, beat the Packers and give yourselves a chance at beating the Rams. So we're gonna see it these next 2 or 3 weeks at home.
Yeah, and so basically the way I have it, I had them at 6-4 after 10 games. I did. 6-4 after 10 games. So uh, I didn't think they'd lose the Viking game. I really didn't. I thought they would lose the Bengal game. That's what I thought they were going to lose, but that was before Joe Burrow got hurt. Um, and I had their win total. What did I have it at? Where is it? 12? Was it 12-5? Was it 12-5? Where is it?
I had us at 11, and I thought 11-6 could win the division. And I thought with how brutal the schedule was, I was like, we won 11-6. I feel there you go. You have 12-5.
12-5. Yeah,
Yeah.
12-5. Yep. So, and I said the unsung hero will be Graham Glasgow. I don't know, not really.
Tyreek Williams, that's not a bad. Go back to that page again. I want to see that again. Tyreek Williams, I think he's been good for us.
Yep.
Breakout. I think Terry. I mean, it stinks that he hasn't been able to stay healthy, but I think when he's out there, people now realize he's really good. Best addition, DJ Reed, probably the same thing. If he's hadn't been hurt, I think he would be saying that. And then Hutchinson for the other two. I mean, certainly comeback, and then MVP. I mean, he's been great, and the defense has been the better part of the team. So, I probably would pick someone on the defensive side of the ball.
If I had to change it, but that was at the beginning of the season, I think Jack Campbell has been the best player.
And actually, that was the point I was going to bring. That was the thing I was trying to think of to say. Wow, Jack Campbell has been unbelievable. I mean, and I tweeted it out earlier this week. His stats through the first 10 games of his career compared to his stats now that they've played 10 games in year 3. Because I think we always think of like that, like, oh, what are they, are they going to jump from the second year? And I think people, myself kind of included, got a little, and not that I thought Jack Campbell was bad. I always, even going into the season, I'm like, this is a guy that's going to start for us for a long time. It's just, does he take that next step to where, oh my gosh, wow, like he's doing everything now. It's not just he's great against the run. It's he's calling the defense. He's getting sacks. He's getting into the backfield. He's disrupting the run game. He's able to cover better than he's shown his first 2 years. So, I mean, yeah, this guy is like playing as good as any linebacker in the league. And it's been as exciting as a development as this team's had this year.
Best run defender in terms of grades in the NFL is Jack Campbell. He has 0 missed tackles on the year. He joins the likes, if I do the whole you have to be qualifying or whatever. There's only 3 players in the NFL that have missed 0 tackles on 50% of the snaps. Drew Tranquill, Servosier Dennis in Tampa Bay, and Jack Campbell. Those are the only 3. And then if you look at his stops, which is it's a failure for the offense. He has 24.
That's a great stat, honestly. By the way, I'm kind of new to learn. Oh, like a year or 2 ago, I learned that stat. I'm like, that's like a really telling stat.
And the reason I like that stat, and I like the stop percentage more, because it kind of shows you a little bit about like how much they really affect the defense. And Jack Campbell's number 2 in that department as well. And I think he's number 6 in tackles. Only Bobby Wagner, Demario Davis, Bobby Enrique, which we will see this week, Jordan Brooks, Nate Landman, and Cedric Gray are ahead of him. But so that just shows you that Jack Campbell has been really, really good this year. I've been seriously impressed with Jack Campbell. I can't even lie. And Alex Anzalone's looked good. Derek Barnes has looked good. And I know a lot of people are pissed off that Derek Barnes got a contract extension. He's been phenomenal, in my opinion. And you know who's been an unsung hero of this team?
Who's that?
Because, well,
Amik Robertson?
No. Well, yeah, you could say he's been a guy. But you know who's been a really unsung hero in terms of the way that he's been able to play? Trevor Nowatzki.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He made a couple of nice plays last week on the tush push, too.
Yeah, and Amik Robertson's been great. Last week, what he did with Devontae Smith was just incredible. Only 1 catch allowed and all that jazz. He's been great. But when you get DJ Reed and Terrion Arnold back, like I think you're really going to see the defense take another step in the right direction.
I agree. And then you can deploy like even Brian Branch in more ways too, because I feel like especially with still Kirby Joseph out, and then you've kind of been having like one of your top 3 corners. Not, I just feel like that's a guy that they probably more than most on the defense really can justify moving him around and do a ton of different places.
Yep.
And I don't know that they've had that full capability with having the amount of guys that they've had out in the secondary.
So you bring up a great point, and this is actually a great point by you. Brian Branch, if they get healthy to the point where Brian Branch can go and he could be he could be your wildcat, or he could be your guy that's going to be all over the defense, playing in the box, maybe going blitzing on the edge.
They did a little bit against the Commanders where he had the 1.5 sacks. Like that's really where he can get him at the line of scrimmage more, because then he can cover the guy in the slot, or he can get sent on a blitz or whatever.
And it's funny because last year they didn't have the opportunity to do the same thing. Their defense was so beat up with injuries. So I think that the defense has been phenomenal in my opinion. The statistics bear it out. And then the offense, I think they're going to get it together. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time. But I think they will beat the Packers. I think they will beat the Rams. I think they're going to beat the Cowboys too.
Please, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, I think so.
The Packers game to me is if they win the Packers game, I think everyone will be fully on board with this team again.
So when
at that point, they're going to be in an amazing position to win the division. So then you're just that's a pretty good baseline to start with.
And I think the Packers, if you look at the Packers schedule, they got some tough games coming up too. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, I spent way too much time on these simulators. The athletic one I think is really good. If the Lions
they're so addicting. They're so addicting.
I know they are. You click on it and all these different percentages pop up. But the Lions, if they can just get to even 11 wins, regardless of any combination, they almost have a 50% chance to win the division. Then if you start talking, if you get to 11 wins and beat the Packers, then it balloons up. So if we're sitting here a couple weeks from now and they're at 8 or 9 wins with a Packers win, they are just in such good position. And man, it really is if they're gonna, if they can't beat the Packers, it gets a little tricky. But then even after that, would it be crazy if they ran the table? And really it'd be kind of the Rams game is the really big tough one there. So I don't know. It's if they can beat the Packers, I think they have a lot of leeway in this. If they don't, it's crazy. It's not a doom scenario. I put out a scenario where they lose to the Packers and the Rams and go 11-6. And it was they had a 45% chance still to win the division. So
I just look at the Packers and they got to go play the Bears in Chicago. They have a whole. I would not want to play Baltimore on the schedule right now.
Yep,
that's just me. And they got Baltimore on the schedule, and you know how Lamar is when it's a regular season. He's gonna ball out, and he did pretty good against Detroit. But they got to go to Denver, and I tell you what, man. Denver they're playing really good. They're their number 1 seed right now. If you were in the AFC, yep. I don't fully buy them yet, but I think that defense would give the Packers offense a hell of a fuck. That would be, they're gonna get, that defense is unbelievable in my opinion.
So if the Packers, if we beat the Packers, they would need to get, basically if we beat the Packers and finish with 11 wins, they would need to get to 11 to surpass us because they have the tie. But if you're telling me we beat them, then they only need to lose 2 other times in that scenario to not get the required wins, because that would be, they're 6 wins right now, so they would finish with 4. It would be 10, 5, and 1, or whatever the math is. 10, 6, and 1. So if we beat them, that means if the Ravens and Broncos, or if the Raven, one of those, and then they split with the Bears, then they would have to get to 12 wins. So it would be, they couldn't lose that many. So if the Packers lose 3 more times which, like I said, if we beat them, it's kind of a pretty clear path to seeing, you know, 2 other losses there. Then you're saying, well, are the Bears gonna, like, the Bears to me kind of top out even regardless at 10 wins, so that doesn't get them to 11. So, you know, that scenario of beating the Packers, you probably only need to win 11 total games to win the division if that's the case, unless the Packers just, they go on a run, they sweep the Bears, they, you know, probably beat the Ravens and the Broncos or whatever. But you, like, anyone listening to this, like, do that playoff simulator with a win over the Packers, and it's like the floor on the ceiling at that point is like winning the division.
So I think the biggest game of the week in terms of what Lions fans, there's 2 games.
Too. Yep.
Eagles versus Cowboys, which could be a huge one. And the Rams play the Buccaneers. And that could really, if the Buccaneers beat the Rams, that could really send everything. If the Cowboys beat the Eagles, mayhem's going to be in the NFC, because it's, if you do the playoff simulator and you do those 2 losses, it throws everything into
It really does, actually. I wasn't even thinking about it in terms, because I'm just, in my mind, I'm past the 1 seed. But if the Cowboys beat the Eagles this week, that could definitely throw things in. I think the Bears and the Steelers is a pretty huge one, because if you're concerned just for the, like, playoffs and all that, like, if the Bears lose this week, I think, like, the Lions are 100%, like, in no threat even at all, because at that point, like I said, you're playing the at Eagles after that, at the Packers. I mean, because right now, the in terms of who's actually going to be in the playoffs, it kind of looks like it's, you know, what, the 8 seed right now is the Panthers, I think.
Yeah, the
Like,
8 seed.
I kind of don't think it's going to be, or, you know, the Lions are with the Panthers right now. So it's kind of going to be between the Lions, the 49, or whoever doesn't win the NFC North, and then the, you know, like the Bears or whoever it is, the second place team, Packers, Bears, and then the 49ers. Like, there's not many teams that are, like, it's going to be one of those teams that doesn't make it. So, you know, it's interesting. Like, the seedings could be totally in flux depending on what happens, but it kind of does look like the teams that are actually going to be in the playoffs, it's not going to be that many different combinations. It's going to be one of these teams, like the Bears or 49ers, hopefully, that doesn't get in.
Yeah, and I think the Bears are going to lose this week. Well, depending on who's the quarterback, but, you know, they would get lucky again and get, like, Mason Rudolph out there or something like that. But I just look at this whole thing.
Game in the Bears season for me, 100%. Like, this is it. If you win, you have a good chance. If you lose, I think the Bears are screwed.
Yeah, and I just look at some of these games that are going on in this week, and, you know, like, in terms of how they could affect the whole thing, is the Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles, Rams and Buccaneers. Even the Panthers and the 49ers on Monday Night Football could really affect.
That is, yeah. Honestly, if the Panthers win that, that's a huge blow to the 49ers playoff chances.
And it's so compact. I mean, even, like, the teams, like, we you know, I think the NFC North is going to get through 2, maybe 3 teams, but you look at the NFC West, they have 3 teams in right now. The Dallas Cowboys aren't far out. You know, it's up for grabs. So I really think there's 2, 3. I
don't think the Cowboys really are in the mix, but if they start rattling off wins, like if they beat the Eagles, maybe they could be.
They're 4-5-1, and with a win,
if they win this. You're right. If they win this week, it does change a lot.
So if they win and then they win next week, depending on other matchups, but the problem is they go play the Chiefs and then they go play the Lions. So
that's their next 3 games. Wow. Yeah. Maybe that's why I looked at it and was like, yeah, they're done.
But yeah, that's the way it is, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this whole thing. And obviously, this is the Giants game preview podcast. We talked a lot about other stuff, but this game, in my opinion, and I know you feel the same way, it should be a tune-up game, because you got way bigger games on the horizon. And if anything that Dan Campbell wants to try it now. Don't try it against the Packers on a short week. Don't try it against the Cowboys on a primetime Thursday night game. Definitely don't try it against the Rams on the road. So this is a good time to do all those things. This is a Giants team that I think can be easily beatable. Now they do have some talent, but they're not like this team that you're like shaking fear over. Like there's no Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison or TJ Hawkinson like the Vikings had. It's the Giants, and they're a total team in flux. And Mike Kafka, the Northwestern great quarterback, he's the head coach right now, and they're a gritty group, but they're not anything that you need to worry about, in my opinion. And if the Lions do lose this game, shame on them, and then that's not good for that'd be terrible for their playoff hopes. And I don't think they're going to lose this game because Dan Campbell don't lose 2 in a row, and the Lions don't lose 2 in a row. And maybe the thing I took out of the most with the press conferences and all that stuff, I was reading some of those. Jahmyr Gibbs says they're straight. Aiden Hutch says we're fine. Jared Goff says we're fine. St. Brown on his podcast said they're fine. I think that they're not stressing about it. I think if they would have said something like, "Oh, we need to win this game," maybe it would have been a little bit more. But just what I think. But it is what it is.
Yeah, this is they had, and Jared Goff said it when he was talking. Like they have everything in front of them. They have, I know they only go week to week, but you win your next 2 games, the whole narrative on this team, I think, looks night and day. And even with saying that, it's nice that we're kind of in a spot where it's, what's going on with the Lions, and they're still 6-4 and going to be favored in probably 6 of their final 7 games. So, excited to see them this week, and hopefully it's, get the win, play decent, and then you're obviously going into one of the biggest games of the season on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what happens, and obviously next week's a short week, so we'll probably do a podcast like Tuesday or something, like, or Wednesday or something like that, maybe Tuesday. But it's going to be this whole 3 games in 11 days is going to be a lot, and it's going to be battle to the finish. So we'll see what happens against the Giants. I think that me and James we're in agreement that this should be a total win, and obviously come back home, they should be roaring and ready to go. So it is what it is. I think the Lions win, and I don't think someone mentioned St. Brown's bruised up hand on the podcast. I think he is maybe dinged up, but he's going to tough through it. So
yeah, I think that happened maybe against like the Browns. Or I saw another report from, I think it was Jeff Risdon, pointed it out that he did hurt his wrist a little bit against the Browns. Maybe that he does have a little bit of a nagging thing, and that's led to a couple of drops because he normally doesn't drop anything.
Right.
But it's one of those things that probably we'll never really know. And he's a guy that he's not going to make any excuses for that. So I think honestly, Amon-Ra St. Brown does need to play a little bit better, and it's not.
I think he knows that too. So
yeah, for sure. And it's not a lack of effort. It's not like he's playing poorly. But yeah, when you're an offense that is struggling a little bit on third down and have some questions, like you want your best players to step up, and he has had a couple of drops here that have been uncharacteristic. So let's have that be a part of these next few games at home. Like let's have the offense get settled and string together 2 or 3 good performances, because that's really what they need to do. If they beat the Giants this week, it's going to be, and then they don't play well against the Packers, it's going to be the same type of narrative. It's like, oh, well, of course they beat the Giants, they're terrible, and now they struggle against the Packers. So,
and they'll be hampered on. So that's
sure.
kind of what
they gotta make it stop. Like go out and let's play 2 or 3 good road games here, and let's be 9-4 and be in great position to end the season.
Well, James will be in section 344, so he'll be ready for that all 22 coverage.
That's right. Have the all 22 view look, and then when I see it the next day, hopefully they're all great highlights, and it's just like I'm It really is funny when you see those highlights, and it's like I can just
I sit
vision.
right
It's
there.
like I'm at the game, and I just re-see the play again. It's pretty
It's
fun.
that's pretty cool. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. I think they're going to win. But here's the thing: like I said earlier, they need to play better. You just said the same thing. They need to play better. Just going into the Green Bay game, going into the Dallas game, like those are the games that are really going to put this puppy into another dimension. And I just think that if they win this game and then they go out and play an A against Green Bay, the narrative will be the same narrative. So they're trying to dispel a narrative that they are not good against defensive lines that are pretty good. And I don't know if you've seen, but I mean, we'll talk about this on the next one. But Michael Parsons' brother is really talking
Yeah,
trash about the
that
whole
is
Packers
interesting
team.
how he tweets a lot about stuff.
He's saying that the whole defense sucks and they can't wait to get Nate Hobbs out of there. I'm like, Jesus, Pete. But
I know that is crazy. I did see that tweet.
at least Equinemius or Hutchinson's sisters aren't going
I
on
know
Instagram and doing something stupid like that. But
exactly.
we'll see you guys in the next podcast. We talk more Detroit Lions football. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Joe Chap. That's James, and we'll see you in the next one. And like, subscribe, rate, review, and then follow the podcast on YouTube, Detroit Lions News Podcast. We just created the channel because it's the old channel. For some reason, YouTube's going crazy with this whole deleting podcast pages. So we'll figure it out. But we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, and go Lions.